I have seen the torch of freedom pass from hand to yearning hand, and the vision of our fathers spread hope throughout this land, as the dream some fought and died for in my heart becomes my own. I will strive to keep her promise, America, my home. America, America, may God bless America, and freedom reign across America, my home. From the shorelines to the prairies, to the cities great and small, we have reaped the fruits of justice and liberty for all. So with deep appreciation for the blessings of freedom that we know in this wonderful land of ours, I'm Dr. George Simon, welcoming you to another edition of Character Matters. This is the program where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, the character crisis that we face and that affects so many aspects of our lives, from our community relations to our family relations, to our individual relationships, to our politics, to our business affairs. All aspects of our lives are affected by the character issue. And we're going to be talking a lot about that today, but we're going to be focusing especially on the interrelationship between freedom and character, as we always do at this time of the year, because we celebrate our independence in this country and the freedoms that we enjoy. And we have some callers waiting by, but if you want to join the conversation tonight, the number to call is 718-717-8296 or area code 501-258-8326, and I'll be happy to take your call. You're going to be hearing in its entirety the theme song that we play at the beginning and end of the program today a couple of times during the program. And I see we have our first caller calling in, so I'm going to go ahead and accept this call. Welcome to Character Matters.
This is Jane Dickerson, and I was calling in to speak to Dr. Simon.
You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Dr. Simon. I'm a huge fan of yours, and I have read both of your books and followed several of the interviews that you have done about the character disturbance of narcissism, and specifically related to the president.
Yes.
And my specific question is, how can the media cover this president given the pathology? I saw Rachel Maddow had a program on, and she outlined the personality traits without identifying the actual disorder. Mm-hmm. And she said, I don't know what the cure is for this. I don't know how to defend the country against this. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if she's actually aware of this disorder. I would say that he's a narcissistic sociopath. I don't know if you go that far.
Well, you bring up an interesting topic, and I want you to stick around here because there's been a lot of discussion, and, I've made a couple of appearances myself on programs.
Yes.
And one of the reasons why you don't see me a lot is because I will not do, for ethical reasons, what many in the media would have me do, and that is to render a diagnosis, which is totally inappropriate. It's against all ethical canons, so that's one thing I won't do. And the other thing I won't do is I won't sensationalize. You know, this pathology is not uncommon in our age, unfortunately. And I am not so sure, frankly, which is the more insidious manifestation of this personality disturbance. There are narcissists who are vulgar, banal, who are so unabashed, so shameless in their egocentricity and in their disdain for others that they kind of turn our stomachs. Then there are narcissists who are very polished, who have good, what we call impression management skill. They know how to say the right things, do the right things. They know how to curry favor. They know how to appear benign, and because of that, our charm alarm does not go off. As a matter of fact, we're taken in by them. So I'm not sure which is the more insidious manifestation of this personality disturbance. I
think he has both. And that's part of the difficulty in the reporters trying to cover him, because I think it's very easy to be lured in by either of those, either by the friendly manifestation or the vulgar. But I think the dilemma that I have members of the family that are in the press and have been in the press, and the dilemma is how can you represent to the American country, to this country, things that are shocking, when actually that is nurturing something that is bad for our psyche. I mean, they're trying to be reporting and doing their job, but on the other hand, it's doing a huge amount of damage because it's giving so much voice to the behavior, whatever, let's say there's no diagnosis to even discuss. It's very obvious that there's a problem that is preventing normal relationships and dialogues, the ability to report the truth, the facts, and to really do their jobs responsibly without being a tool or a victim. I think it's really a tough thing, and I don't think they know what to do.
Let me. I'm going to pose to you an interesting take on this, and I'd like to hear what you have to say. What I've been noticing in the media, really, it doesn't take a degree, a PhD. In rocket science or in clinical psychology. It doesn't take that to notice the narcissism in this man.
Right.
However, we have a lot of talking heads out there, and we have a lot of reporters who are very unnerved by this president and who are taking a little bit of knowledge to an extreme. And they're flummoxed in trying to do their real job, which is to expose as much truth as possible and to pose as many honest questions as possible to keep folks basically in line. So what we have going on here is we have a lot of armchair theorists out there trashing his character. What good does that do? It's like we don't need. How many more people do we need to point out to us his character flaws? They're so patently obvious.
I totally agree.
And the folks doing it only expose their own vindictiveness. They only expose their own haughtiness in that process. What we really need to do is stick to the facts and illuminate the folks on the real danger, which is his ignorance. We have a person who gets most of information staying up late and watching stuff on TV and then acting like he knows.
Yes.
His knowledge base is actually horrifically low. He is literally learning on the job and not learning that well. George Will said it best in an article, and George Will is no liberal maniac. Okay.
Yeah, I know him. Yeah.
He said in a pretty scathing article, but I thought it was right on. He said, this person doesn't know what it is to know. In other words, there are some among us who are very learned, who have done their homework, and when they understand an issue, they really do understand it because they have a mound of facts behind them, an amount of their own research. They haven't come to their conclusions haphazardly. So we have a person that doesn't know what it is to know, and for whom, as part of the character disturbance, reality is what they say it is.
How do you, if given that, which I totally agree with that, and understanding that this is basically punting, and at the start of the show he'll have one answer, at the end he'll have another answer. So the obvious inability to pin down, the con or the trying to manipulate
and that I believe is the fault of the probers, because rather than focusing on the inconsistencies in the facts and rather than continuing to put him on the spot, he lets them get under his skin and then they go for him. And we're not going to get anywhere that way. It's not with this character type. I've worked with these folks for forever. There's only two things that teach them. Only two things. One is their own traps. In other words, when called enough and artfully, carefully, where it's not possible to be seen as demeaning or hateful or vindictive or spiteful, when basically they trap themselves. That's one way. The other way that they learn is when everything falls apart and it's not possible to point the finger. Now, that's a very, very rare grace, shall we call it. That's a very rare blessed circumstance. In the 12-step groups, they call that hitting bottom. It's when everything around you collapses because of your own behavior, and it does no good to try and point the fingers anymore, because everywhere you point, you know that that's not the answer, and there's only one answer left, and that answer is you. Right.
And my brother is with CBS. He's an anchor with CBS, and he actually did a 1-hour interview with Trump and has done multiple interviews. And he, I believe, has that distinction of that gracious tenacity to not try to out Trump, but to genuinely try to get answers that are helpful, that are not trying to inflame anything, just to try to have a rational, productive, and he had a very good, long, extensive interview that, at the end, the president literally ran behind his desk in order to conclude the interview. But I feel that in general, this there are different types of reporters, but I'm seeing a tremendous amount of abuse. At the White House briefings.
Yes.
And so they are unfortunately falling into a trap.
Absolutely.
Of the disorder.
Absolutely.
And while at one point you're suggesting, which I believe, that they stay focused on what we need to know.
Absolutely.
To where we're going as a country, it's really tough to do that if actually your role for them is to be baited and to be humiliated.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah. In my book...
It's really tough. It's really tough.
In my book, In Sheep's Clothing, I speak to the issue of the fact that when aggressive personalities of all types, when they go on the attack, we unconsciously go on the defensive. And if they're slick about it, if they're slick about the way that they're trying to beat us up, basically emotionally, we don't obviously get the point of what they're doing, but unconsciously we get really unnerved because we know we are under assault. And when we're feeling anxious that way, and when we're feeling scared and we're running kind of internally, when that happens, we don't think straight anymore. We start to there's an axiom in military science with respect to the rules of engagement or the terms of engagement. And the first axiom is the aggressor sets the rules. And what military tacticians mean by that, and I've given this example before, I say consider the aggressive driver. You know, that person behind you that you've been watching through your rearview mirror, they've been weaving between lanes, going back and forth, trying to get to that intersection in front of you 20 seconds before you do. And there's a car ahead of you, and there's a car ahead of them in the other lane that's going just a little too slow for their liking. And you can just see them out of the corner of your eye, angling for that little space between you and that car in front of you. And when they make that move, that aggressive move, and they try to dart in that spot, if you don't back off the pedal and allow them in, it's your fender that's going to get clipped. So that person who makes the first strike has basically dictated your response to you. And this is what's happening with the reporters. This person and his surrogates, they go on the attack. And they say that they're justified because they've been attacked. So, and
that's the double bind.
That's the double bind.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to be quick to kind of regroup, understand what's going on, and not let it affect you. Just stick to the point, keep it simple, let them trap. They will hang themselves. They will. Right. Yeah.
I don't want to dominate your program, but I have one more question that's related to this, which is that you did a wonderful YouTube interview, an extensive interview with Meredith Miller for Inner Integration, and Meredith asked you, why is it that they all do the same thing? And this is, to me, the answer to Rachel's question is there really is a playbook for this guy in terms of his behavior, because they all do the same thing, whether it's, whatever degree they're going to lie, or, they're going to pivot or not answer or not be responsible or never say, it's
well, they're also going to read their opponent. No demagogue gets to power unless they know who they're targeting and what those people want to hear. I've heard every single excuse. For why Hillary lost the election, except the honest one. There was the party, the Democratic Party, screwed itself. They had a popular candidate who, in every single poll, head to head, was the only candidate who could beat this guy, and they didn't want him because he wasn't establishment and he wasn't going to do the bidding of everyone, and they thought he would be too alienating, and the establishment had determined that it was Hillary's time, and then she herself, when she had the opportunities, didn't do what she needed to do, and she displayed an attitude that, frankly, turned a lot of people off. So then you have this guy who says, there are all these folks out there who feel unheard, disenfranchised, and this is the message they want to hear. I'm going to feed it to them. I'm going to feed it to them often. And he fed it to them so well that despite the fact, this is the most unbelievable thing, despite the fact that there were so many embarrassing moments in the debates and whatnot, where he could have truly ended any chance he had enough appeal to folks who wanted to hear what he had to say, because everybody else was ignoring them. If they hadn't ignored them, there wouldn't have been a problem. Nobody really wanted this guy. They just wanted to be heard. And he said, I'll do it. That's how every demagogue does it. It's a simple playbook, and the others, frankly, were fools for playing along, because it takes others to play along with that, to enable that kind of behavior. All you have to do is not turn off those people who he appealed to. All you have to do is recognize them. They're not inferior. They're not all yahoos. They're not all redneck, bigoted, homophobic. They're not all that. Some of them are very decent people.
Absolutely. I think the danger is that, just as you said before, is the aggressiveness that happens that literally is playing into the strategy of creating the other, and to be able to avoid, whether you pathologize it or you diagnose it or anything, it's the playbook. And if you don't have the playbook, which you so perfectly articulated in your books and you do on your website, unless they know the playbook, they are going to, unfortunately, I'm terrified, having done a lot of research and following of this sort of disturbance, is I'm very afraid that right now they are actually making the country, literally, their brains are melting because of the cognitive dissonance all of this chaos creates. Nobody's sticking to what I shouldn't say nobody, but very few are sticking to really this disciplined thought because they know the enemy's playbook. And so that, to me, is sort of the answer is to send Rachel these 2 books and say, this is the answer of how to defend this attack on the press, the country, the mind, the psyche. It's psychological warfare, essentially.
Yeah. Right? Well, I'll have one last word about the press.
Okay.
Almost inevitably in life, things happen that are deserved, and I know you may not find this a palatable notion. It may sound a little distasteful, but many years ago, some folks noticed a bias in the general media. And it was a well-founded bias, but it was a bias. Right. It was a bias nonetheless. And then newspapers started to polarize. Editorial boards within papers started to pick sides. They started not to become objective anymore. Some had a distinctly conservative bent. Some had a distinctly liberal bent. But in the mainstream media, there was pretty much mostly a liberal bent. And what happened was these demagogues and entrepreneurs and exploiters, basically, these entrepreneurs who saw opportunity, these opportunists, came to the fore and said, oh, my Lord, there are these millions and millions of people out there who don't feel recognized, heard, or respected. And they see the bias, and they think it's unfair. Guess what? We will pander to them. And they all made millions. They all made millions. And it all could have been prevented. It all could have been prevented if there were a relentless pursuit of the truth for both sides. Fair, equal, with no agenda. And that's unfortunate. We've lost that objectivity. It's gone forever. And it's created a polarity that is not going to resolve overnight. We are more divided now than we have ever been, and it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Well, I hope the press can contribute to healing that in themselves and in the country.
I sure hope so. I hope so. We have to pray for that, don't we? Oh, thank you.
Yes,
what a wonderful call. And what a great discussion on this special program. And that.
I'm so grateful. Grateful to talk to you. And
stand by the radio because we're going to play. Thank you so much. Stand by the radio because we're going to play in its entirety, America, My Home. And let me just, for the audience's benefit and for your benefit, I know there's a lot of people using this song right now. As a matter of fact, I saw a Facebook post where I was tagged as the composer along with my wife, and I was not really pleased with how they were presenting the song. But let me tell you the inspiration for it. America's greatness has never, ever rested in its military might or its economic power, both of which are substantial. What has always made this country great is what de Tocqueville supposedly said, never did say, but he supposedly said, and that is when our people are of decent character, that's when freedom thrives, because when people have a solid internal moral compass, when they don't need anybody to guide or manage or micromanage their lives, when people of decent character who care not only about doing right, but doing right by others. When people like that are left alone and given maximum freedom and opportunity, they will do fantastic things and they will create opportunities for others. Unfortunately, what's happened to us is there are so few people like that left that we are trying to manage everything with laws and with rules and punishments. We have the highest percentage of our population of any country on the planet, any country in history, incarcerated or confined in one way or another. It's a disgrace because we don't have enough functional people. What's made us great is when we have folks of sound character who honor our best ideals and live them out in their daily lives. That's what built this country. People built it.
Yes, that's so beautiful, especially on this 4th of July. I can hear that.
Well, thank you. And so stand by. I'm going to play the song. I just wanted to be sure people understood the message of it. It's personal. It's personal. I wrote it actually a year and a half before 9/11. It got performed for the first time 4 months before 9/11. And then when 9/11 happened, that's when it took off in popularity. But I'm going to play it momentarily here for the folks, so stand by. Thanks so much for the call.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, what a great call. So, without any further ado, folks, for those of you standing by, this is Anthem for the Millennium, commonly known by its subtitle, America, My Home. It speaks to what really makes us great. We're great as a country when we're great in character individually. So here is America, My Home in its entirety for you.
I have seen the torch of freedom pass from hand to yearning hand, and the vision of our fathers spread hope throughout this land, as the dream some fought and died for in my heart becomes my own. I will strive to keep her promise, America, my home. America, America, the shorelines to the prairies, to the cities great and small, he hath reaped the fruits of justice and liberty for all. So with deep appreciation for the blessings we have known, I will honor her forever. America, my home. America, America. May God bless America, and freedom reign across America, my
Well, there you have it. America, my home. America, my home. Oh, we cannot stop this. We cannot stop that. Oh, goodness gracious. Having a little technical difficulty there. We didn't really want to go into another piece. I had an interesting technical malfunction earlier where the only way I could get the song to play for you was to play it through my iPhone. And you are about to be treated to another song in my library there until I finally was able to stop it. So sorry about that. Like I said earlier, this is a special edition of the program. This is a program where we always talk about the interrelationship between freedom and character. And I really appreciated the last call very much because we live in such polarized times. And, I've had many opportunities to speak to some of the issues that divide us, and especially to talk to folks about concerns about the current presidency. And I have been determined, and I remain determined, to not let the conversation descend to the levels that it has. As I mentioned to the caller earlier, it doesn't take a PhD in psychology or in rocket science or any other discipline demanding pretty significantly high intelligence. It doesn't take that kind of knowledge, that kind of intellect, to see the disturbing aspects of character that we see. However, it's unethical. It's unethical to armchair diagnose, even for a professional. It's especially unethical for these folks who don't have credentials to do that. And so rather than focusing on what's really relatively irrelevant, there's pathology everywhere. We live in an age of rampant character pathology. That's the nature of our times. Our culture, for the past several decades, has spawned nothing but narcissism. This is not a rare phenomenon, and its manifestations vary. I talk in my book, Character Disturbance, and in my books, In Sheep's Clothing, and my book, How Did We End Up Here, about the two very, very different types of narcissism, and how some forms of narcissism can become particularly malignant, which is really what's at the root of what some people call either psychopathy or sociopathy, the most malignant form of narcissism. What makes narcissism malignant? Well, it's the absence. It's the relative absence of human empathy. It's the relative absence of the ability to care. And it expresses itself not so much in the haughtiness that you see in all narcissism. Rather, it expresses itself in the outright disdain that the person that considers themselves superior feels toward others that they see as beneath them. So, what we are tempted to do when these malignant narcissists get under our skin is we intuitively want to cut them down to size. We recognize how big for their britches they're acting. And we intuitively say to ourselves, hey, this person just really needs to be put in their place. And then they take it upon themselves to try to do that. And then that gives the malignant narcissist the opportunity to say, hey, I'm being attacked. I'm being put down. I have every reason to fight back. And by the way, you're not so great yourself. And then start a war of basically a personal vindication, a personal validation. It's just ridiculous. It's a stupid game to play, and it's a pointless game to play. It's a game you can't win. We have big problems to address. The disparities are growing among us. Big time. The income gap is worse than it's ever been. The social conscientiousness gap is bigger than it's ever been. We have fewer and fewer people among us really trying to make it all work. And some incredible percentage of us that is so totally dysfunctional, they can't make it independently. It really saddens me. It saddens me for this country. And that's another reason why, once again, I will, in a few minutes, play the song that my wife and I wrote for you and talk about its true sentiments. Long before I had a rekindling of any kind of patriotic spirit of my own, I saw what was happening as a result of the character crisis that we've been in. As a therapist in practice for years, I watched so many families fall apart. So many individuals experience so much pain. So many people feel so disenfranchised. So many people lost with no sense of direction. I witnessed all this, and then I said to myself, what's happened here? What's happened? Because there seemed to be a time that I could remember when things weren't this way. When there was more hope. When there seemed to be more justice. Where families stayed together. They helped each other. You could trust your neighbor. I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. I can remember when it was safe in the middle of the city for a child like myself and my sister to walk city blocks to a relative's house and not have to worry. Not have to worry. Something really sad happened to us. And one of the things I believe that really contributed to it and that really fueled a lot of the turbulence of the 60s was unjust war. And all the lies that were told to support it. And all the blood that was shed unnecessarily. This is what happens in a dysfunctional family, in any dysfunctional family, when the people given charge, when the people entrusted with power and authority abuse it. The inmates take over the asylum. And that's exactly what happened to us. And we started rebelling against everything. And we ended up throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And now I know baby boomer friends of mine, acquaintances, I know other baby boomers, whose lives have been so messed up that they're just now starting to get it together in their 60s. It's an amazing thing that we've done to ourselves. A lot of things contributed to it, and it's going to take a long time before it gets better. But I have hope. It's going to be a really rough time initially. As I mentioned to the caller earlier, I think our polarity is going to grow. I think the acts of terror that we see from extremist groups, I think that will get worse. I think the inequities, the social inequities that we're already struggling with will have to get even more intense. And then it is my most fervent prayer and my deep belief that we will once again, in adversity, find our core. You know, our character always has to be tested. It always has to be tested. We have to go through fire to really know what we're made of and what our values are. It's just the human condition. It is the human condition. And I think that will happen with us. Matter of fact, I'm so sure of it that I can honestly say, I think, that I know that's what's going to happen. History has taught us that. We find ourselves in those times of adversity. And so, coming to realize that back in 1999, I penned this song. My wife and I collaborated on the words. She's a great poet. And I even have a brother who contributed to helping me even formulate the sentiment. Because what I came to realize is this inextricable, this absolutely essential interrelationship between freedom and character. The premise is simple. Leave decent people alone. Give folks with a solid internal moral compass, folks who care, and folks who only want to make a meaningful, positive contribution to the greater good. You give those folks free rein, freedom to innovate, freedom to prosper, freedom from unnecessary tying of the hands of any type. You give those kinds of folks freedom, and they will do great things, And in doing those great things, they will not only prosper themselves, but they will create nothing but opportunity for others to prosper as well. Unfortunately, when you're in a period of character crisis, the only way government can see to try and manage all of the nasty things character-disturbed people are capable of doing to one another, the only way they can see to try and manage and mitigate the damage is to curtail freedoms, to pass law after law, restriction after restriction, and these things that are designed to control the behavior of the irresponsible among us affect us all. And frankly, the irresponsible among us are always going to find a way around the rules. They're going to always find, because they're determined. They're determined. They're determined to have what they want at your expense, no matter what. The root of the problem is, and always has been, character. So, after years and years and years of hearing this melody that was planted in my brain, I composed this piece that is personal. It's a personal appeal to honor forever this place of opportunity. It's still a place of remarkable opportunity, but it's not the great place it was. And we're not going to make it great again in the way some people are suggesting, including our current president, that we'll make it great again. It's when we are individually great in character, solid in character, when we care about each other, when we keep our families together, we honor our relationship partners and do right by them. We play fair in our business affairs and in our politics. That's when we're great. So with that, once again, here is Ricky David Tripp, a singer that I brought in, whose vocals I still get shivers when I hear, even though not all the time do I agree with his point of view, but nonetheless, here is the song that my wife and I composed in 1999 after years of hearing this melody in my head and wanting to urge folks to understand that America's greatness has never been in our military might or economic power, but in the character of our people. People who honor and live out our best ideals, because it's on those people that the very survival of freedom depends. So here once again is America, My Home.
I have seen the torch of freedom pass from hand to yearning hand, and the vision of our fathers spread hope throughout this land, as the dream some fought and died for in my heart becomes my own. I will strive to keep her promise, America, my home. America, America, may God bless America, and freedom reign across America, my home. to the cities great and small. We have reaped the fruits of justice and liberty for all. So with deep appreciation for the blessings we have known, I will honor her forever. America, my home. America, America. May God bless America, and freedom reign across America, my home. America, America. May God bless America, and freedom reign across America, my home. May freedom reign across America, my home. My
Well, there you have it. Anthem for the Millennium, more commonly known as America, My Home, to all of you who are helping carry the message of the song about where America's greatness truly lies, to all of you who are doing that in various performances around the country this holiday weekend. My hat is off to you. God bless you. And I really appreciate from the bottom of my heart you helping to inspire others. We have a wonderful place here still. It is a remarkable place with an incredible degree of freedom and opportunity. It doesn't have as much freedom as it used to. Matter of fact, there are places now, there are places in the world where even more freedom is enjoyed. That's not something that we could have said years ago. But we still have it within our power to be that shining beacon, that shining lantern on a hill. And we not only would honor this wonderful place, but we would honor ourselves and honor each other if we reclaimed what's really at the source of our greatness. We've had many different periods in our country's history, and not all of them have been great. We've had periods of great shame. We would like to think that we've always been a wonderful place and done wonderful things collectively, but that's simply not true. There are plenty of things that we have done, plenty of injustices, but there have also been some times, some very shining times, where we have been that bright beacon, signaling to all the possibilities that can come along with freedom. But those possibilities can only be realized in safety and in general welfare. Those possibilities can only be realized when the people seizing those opportunities seizing those possibilities, have a solid ethical foundation from which to operate. It is possible for decent people to do great things. And when decent people do great things, they create opportunities for everyone. Right now, in our land, it's a time of some disgrace in many, many ways. And it's not just a time of disgrace because we have a person managing our affairs whose manifestation, whose type, whose variety of narcissism offends us. There is no shortage of narcissism today. And while the ugliest forms of it may offend us, that's not the greater problem. The greater problem is that we have too many children. Too many children who don't know their parents, who don't have the chance. We have too many businesses that don't have the vision. We have too many politicians who put power first. It's all about character. And we're paying the price. And we will continue to pay the price until we decide collectively, as the title of this program suggests, that character does indeed matter, that it matters above everything else. It matters to our politics. It matters to our community relations, our marriages, our other intimate relationships, our families and our family affairs, our business affairs. Character matters to everything. So we're going to be going into the closing bumper here in just a moment, once again, with our song. Enjoy this holiday weekend. Remember what we celebrate. We celebrate our independence. We celebrate our freedom. But remember, above and beyond all else, upon what foundation freedom has to rest. And I'll be with you again on another edition of Character Matters, probably not live next week, but I'll see you again, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Dr. George Simon. Have a wonderful weekend, and enjoy, once again, America, my home. Thanks for tuning in. Good night.
America.